Well, look what we have here. Loki, episode 4. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell y'all? I know I told y'all. Didn't I tell y'all to listen to Uncle E sometimes? Didn't I tell y'all? Episode 4 was not something you wanted to miss. Woo! By the way, we are going to go over the entire episode. So, spoiler alert, we are going to go at we're going to go over the whole episode. So please do not sit here and complain. If you haven't seen the episode for whatever reason, go watch it, come back, enjoy yourself, etc. But episode 4, this was it. This reminded me, I think it was also episode 4 of Loki season 1 when Loki got pruned and we was all like, now what? Right? Everybody was like, what we gonna do? So this was good to me. This was just very, very good. But let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Hold on. Well, let's grab these comments here real quick. All right, we'll grab them later. Okay. Let's start off with in the beginning. So as we saw here, we're in the this is Kang's or He Who Remains, his citadel, his place which exists outside of time. Now I want you guys to really remember that concept of being outside of time, because that's going to be a very, very important thing to talk about. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you at the end my theory as to what actually happened at the end, because I know a lot of people are like, what the hell just happened? So I do have a theory, and I will share that, but I want you to hold on to this concept, right? So we go here back to the Citadel, and we see Miss Minutes showing us He Who Remains, and he's showing to Renslayer that a version of them that we're talking about, back in the past. Now, this is the same recording that Loki found from the past when he was time slipping back in episode 1. So what we heard back then, this is the event of when it came up. So basically, Miss Minutes has been keeping all these recordings. Now, this time we got more information where He Who Remained also issued Protocol 42. And Protocol 42 basically was where they could erase all of the TVA memories, including Renslayer. And even after that, he ended up saying, I'm sorry. Mainly, maybe this is because, he actually has feelings for Renslayer, which does kind of go back to the comics. In the comics, they're always a couple. They're always trying to have a relationship, but something always happens. Either, they can't be together, some situation comes up, or she dies in his arms. It's this constant loop that happens where they're attracted, but they just can't make it work. And by the way, that is also something to keep in mind. Loops are very important for this season. It is something that they keep on driving to have you remember that there are constant loops always happening. One thing causing the other, but it's the Ouroboros, the snake eating its tail. It's a constant loop all the time. And this could be yet another loop. But we also know here that Kang don't do partners, right? We saw that with Victor Timely. He was like, nah, we good. Second she said partners, he dumped her in the river like yesterday's trash. Like it was like, whatever, bye. So now we also have Miss Minutes telling Renslayer that she commanded the armies in the multiverse. So in other words, Renslayer was doing all the legwork for He Who Remains while he basically was sitting there chilling. He was chilling at the end of time while she was literally leading his armies against all those other Kang variants and taking over. And Miss Minutes was like, you know what? We don't need him no more. Fast forward, we go back to the TVA. Victor Timely is now finally here. And Loki and Mobius and them are basically pleading with Victor to come with them so that they can fix the temporal loom. We go back to B15, and the judge from the TVA is telling her, you got to go try and convince General Dox to save the timelines. Now, if you recall, General Dox was the one that was basically trying to delete or trying to prune all the branches. And while she was doing that, she was trying to follow protocol, because that's all they knew in the TVA. But B15, after discovering that she was a variant and everybody else was variants, they're having a change of heart. And they're basically saying like, no, we need to save those branches because it's trillions of people on every timeline rather than trying to just go ahead and kill them all off. Now we go back downstairs to Obi, and he finally meets Victor Timely. And he said that he learned everything from Victor. And once again, we have another time loop happening here where you have these two individuals that have basically fed into each other, because Victor was like, man, I learned everything from you. Obi's like, man, I learned everything from you. So the question is, who learned from who first? And well, it's a nonsensical question because they both did. The answer is just yes. Yes, they both learned from each other, because they both exist in this weird time loop at this point. But it is kind of weird because we just met this version of Victor Timely. So how could this version of Victor Timely also teach Obi anything? And that's the part where I'm already kind of thinking something's off here, right? So keep in mind, the Victor Timely that we have been seeing is a variant, right? They went to the sacred timeline and they created a variant. They gave that variant the handbook that Obi made, but Obi said, I learned everything from Victor Timely. But we've seen where this Victor Timely came from. Or have we? So keep that in mind once again, because I think that was a little tricky. I think it was a little tricky. So anyway, Obi's plan now is to control the temporal loom, including by going back outside and using the throughput multiplier and hitting the big green button or whatever. Now, this would basically increase the size of the sacred timeline, which would include all of the branches. Now, I do believe that this whole talk about the sacred timeline and all this stuff, I still think that this is really just a metaphor for what's going on with Marvel in the real world, right? You have the MCU 616, you got the 838 or 834, you got the Venom universe, you got the Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse universe, you got the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, you got the Netflix stuff, you got the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you got all these different waves of timelines and universes, and it's a mess. So right now, what Obi is trying to do, rather than trying to fit all these timelines all into one singular timeline, he's like, yo, now let's try and open up the loom to make it bigger so we can fit all of these together. The Fox, the Venoms, the Sony stuff, we can fit all of that into the loom together and they can all coexist. That's what he's trying to do. For anybody that was lost, that's what he's trying to do by making the loom bigger and to hold all these different timelines all together. So again, this would increase the size of the sacred timeline to include the branches. Now, I love, by the way, Obi making that shot at Sylvie where he was like, yeah, I would have been all good until somebody killed who remains and ruined my whole life. And he was talking about Sylvie. I love Obi. Obi is so hilarious. He is great. Love him. But he was saying that there's a big problem and that there's way more radiation outside now than there was before. And he's comparing this to back when Mobius went out there and he had that suit. He was trying to be protected from all the radiation. And because there's more radiation, that's going to be a problem for them. But Obi said that all of this stuff was theoretical, right? And because it's theoretical, there's still a problem because the multiplier might not work because there are things that are just decaying too fast. But this is where Victor Timely comes in and says that he has his own invention and that this is where he was referring to. This is what he was referring to in the last episode when we saw him doing his display, because his invention actually prevents the decay from happening, all that entropy talk and stuff. So now they're like, cool, we can work together on this, because they both know how all this stuff works. So it's all good. We go on. Now that they all working on it, Mobius is like, all right, cool. Now it's time to go have us some nasty key lime pie. And the second he said this, woo, Sylvie was not having it. She wanted to cuss him clean out, saying that the branches are dying. She even called this man out, saying that he probably hasn't even looked at his own life on the timeline, which we know is true. And that's a sore spot for Mobius. We know that he doesn't want to know about his life on the timeline. As I called it, it's like pre-FOMO. It's the pre-fear of missing out. He doesn't want to know because maybe it's something really good. Maybe he got kids. Maybe he has a great job. Maybe he has a great life. He doesn't want to know that because then he'll miss it. But Sylvie was giving it to my man, and she was like, yo, she was calling the TVA out because she was like, all them branches, they just look like lines on a monitor to y'all, even though I would say that the TVA is starting to understand. But she told that man to go enjoy his funky little old pie. Yikes. Mobius just got treated real bad right there. Like, I mean, he did kind of deserve it because I'm like, bro, you're a little too comfortable. You're a little too comfortable with how quickly you think everything is working, even though people are dying at the same time, like at the very, very same time. All right, let me grab just a couple comments. Mike, I'm weak. He got Miss Minutes, but did wifey take you back? Wifey, yeah, of course. For what? I don't know what you're talking about. I think we're fine. But thank you so much, Mike. Okay, leave. Good to see you. Thank you so much. I wonder if we have the same theory. Let's see. Oh, I will tell you. I will tell you. We might. We might. I know we usually be on the same page with things. Didier, what you got? Obi and Timely meeting was like two old heads meeting. I'm trying to be like you. No, dog, I'm trying to be like you. Can you autograph mine? No, I need your autograph. Bro, it was definitely let me get your jersey and let's swap jersey type of moments. And I liked it. I thought it was very, very funny, very cool right there. So yes, I'm with you on that. Definitely on point for sure. Let's see. Shogun, what you got? Also, if Obi was taught by Victor Timely, wouldn't he recognize Timely when he met this episode? I wonder if a plot hole isn't developing. Maybe. I don't know if maybe he learned about and I'd have to go back, but maybe he said he learned from Victor from the book. Like maybe the book only said by Victor Timely. Maybe that's what he was referring to. I don't know. But I'm thinking if he did meet Victor, then it wouldn't make sense that he wouldn't remember that. Because keep in mind, we already saw that things that happened in the past in the TVA do have Back to the Future rules where you would remember. We saw Loki literally did this when he was time slipping. So it does kind of beg the question, which Victor Timely did Obi actually meet? It's a question. Let's see. And Obi also did not remember. No, was it Mobius didn't remember meeting Obi, or one of them two? I forget. One of them didn't remember the other one. And that's a problem because they should remember if it did happen in the past. So it gives me the idea that more time travel has not happened yet, if that makes sense. I get the feeling that they are going to go back in time again, and maybe that'll fill things out. And maybe we're going to have to rewatch this whole series again to make sense of everything. I think. I don't know. But thank you so much for that. Let's see. What you got, Larry? Maybe Mobius was her friend at McDonald's. She's pissed. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Hey, maybe Mobius is the manager. Who knows? But the good point on that. I will get to the other ones. But I'm gonna try and get those kind of in order. So don't worry, I will go to the older comments. We will get to those after. Okay, so where do we leave off? Mobius just got his whole life handed to him, and now he's got to go eat some nasty key lime pie. All right, now we go to the TVA prison, where Brad, y'all remember Brad, aka X5. Brad is trying to make an appeal to the rogue hunters that they all need to pull together and get back to their lives on the sacred timeline. Keep in mind, they all just discovered that they are now variants, so that means that they all had lives on the sacred timeline. So Brad, we saw, was living his best life on the sacred timeline as a Hollywood actor. And he wants to go back to that ASAP. And now he's trying to talk to Docs. That's General Docs. And she's just like, yeah, we know about your little acting career. You know what I'm saying? We saw your little funky movie, but we not down with that. We are committed to the cause with the TVA, and we gonna stay to that cause, right? Now, Docs is kind of having a little bit of a change of heart here, but she does not want to just go along with what Brad is talking about. Now, B-15 comes in, and she's trying to ask Docs to help them save the TVA, and maybe they can cut a deal, and Docs is like, we don't know if we can trust you. And B-15 is like, look, man, we ain't got time for all this. The TVA, forget the sacred timeline. Everything could be destroyed. TVA gone, sacred timeline gone, y'all gone. We just need to work together, and then we can figure everything else out later. Okay. So now we go back to the nasty key lime pie. I don't know why that's the only pie they got, but Loki is calling out Sylvie for not being able to kill Victor timely. But she admits to this because he did not seem like He Who Remains. Victor was scared, and He Who Remains was not scared. So that's why, Sylvie had some pity on him. But Loki said that Mobius and the TVA are actually trying to save those other branches. So back when Sylvie was kind of saying that, oh, y'all, you guys just look at these as lines on a monitor or whatever, Loki's like, nah, that's not really true though. Like, they actually do care now. And as a matter of fact, they just saved that other timeline where you was, a McDonald's employee, so they do care. They are trying to have a change of heart. And that's really contradicting Sylvie's belief that the TVA is all completely bad. She does have some fear. She's like, yo, Victor could turn bad. We don't know. He could turn into the next He Who Remains. But Loki's like, yo, we at least got to try, and he believes that even if you give people free will, you still need to watch over them, maybe even protect him. And that includes even watching over a Kang variant like Victor Timely. Now, this is interesting because Loki believes now that he has to do better than He Who Remains. And this is a very interesting development because if y'all recall, back during season 1 at the very end, He Who Remains gave Loki and Sylvie that proposition of, y'all run the TVA. I'm tired. I'm old. I want to go to sleep. Like, TV, He Who Remains was like, I need to retire. Okay, I'm done with this. And he wanted Loki and Sylvie to run everything. And Loki did not know how to even respond to that. He was like, what do you mean? Me? Us? I don't know. But after seeing all the chaos, after seeing what happens with the variants and stuff, after seeing the branches, after seeing the fear of the multiversal war, it seems like Loki's kind of like, you know what? He might have a point. He Who Remains might he might be speaking some sense right now. So it's, and I love that line at the end where Sylvie was like, oh, well, now you starting to sound like, a god. Only gods try and control things. And he was like, man, look, we are gods. Mic drop. That's the old Loki I remember. But I don't think he's saying that with the same, let me try and conquer everything, villainy type of mindset. It sounds more like, nah, we have to make the tough decisions, and we are gods. Like, this is what we do. So I don't know. Do y'all think, and this is hypothetical, do y'all think that Loki should run the TVA? I want to say, don't quote me on it, I think there was a comic somewhere where I think it was either Kid Loki or a version of him did kind of run things for a little bit. I don't know. But y'all let me know, is he speaking sense or not? I don't know. Anyway, now we go back to the TVA prison, and Renslayer has shown up with, of course, y'all favorite clock, Miss Minutes. And she's gonna talk to the other agents, the ex-agents. And things were all good when she was running things. That's what Renslayer is saying. She's like, now everything is in chaos. It's a problem now, and she gives all the hunters another option of having a life on the timeline if they help her take control. And y'all can already see Miss Minutes is here. She busted out the machine. We've seen this machine in action before. This machine is the same one that Loki used on Brad to put everybody in that time box. And Brad is like, yo, about that ultimatum, because Renslayer was like, look, if you work with me, I will give you your life back on the timeline, but you got to help me take control of the TVA. And Brad was like, man, that sounds good to me, But the rest of the TVA agents were not going. They stood by Docs. They was like, nah, we want to protect. We're not going to go down like that. And yeah, that didn't go very well. You can already see Brad's face at this point. Now look at this. Look at his face, And even Docs was like, dang, Brad. So you just gonna sit there and let us get squished? Your life as an actor was that good? Really, Brad? Really? Brad was like, man, don't look, don't look at me. Don't look at me. It's look, please don't. Yeah, they got squished. But look at this other face. Look at this. Look at her. What is wrong with her? What is wrong with Miss Minutes? What is wrong with this AI? First of all, she got a little too excited when it was time to use the squishy machine. Look at her face. Why does she have this look as people are dying? People are literally getting squished and turned into liquid. It's bad. It's really, really bad. And look at her face. This is why she needs to get reset. Somebody need to take the batteries out of her or something. And you even see Brad kind of get into it. Like, he could barely look at him, but he manages to kind of suck it up. But man, that Hollywood life must be that good. It must be that good because he's down for the cause now. Anyway, B-15 comes in. She sees the horror of Renslayer that she just perpetrated, and she is horrified by this. And she is trying to like stop things or do whatever, but Miss Minutes hit her with that Jurassic Park and yes, that's because Miss Minutes is now taking control of everything all over again. Obi is still trying to figure things out. um yes, they're still trying to figure things out with Victor. And as they're doing so, Mobius comes in with a cup of hot chocolate, and for whatever reason, um, Victor seems obsessed with a hot cocoa machine or whatever. I don't know why, but he ends up offering the hot cocoa to one of the hunters, and yeah, that hunter just got erased and pruned by none other than Brad himself. So he prunes the other hunter and takes Victor back with him. Now Loki, when they found this, he puts together that Renslayer actually wants the TVA, but not Victor. So he's kind of recognizing, and this is what Loki kind of does. I don't know if y'all recall, but in the first season, Loki would go around and be like, "Oh, okay." Like he started figuring out what Sylvie was up to way before anybody else. So he started to figure out, it's game recognized game. Like a trickster recognizes a trickster. A wannabe tyrant recognizes a wannabe tyrant. So Loki was kind of like, "Oh yeah, she don't want Victor like that. She want to take over the TVA." So he already knew what she was up to. But we do get Victor back here, and it was so hilarious because I felt like he was on an episode of Cheaters, because he showed up and it was like all his exes were like right there. Yeah, Renslayer there. Then look at the other ex. Yeah, look at her giving it a mean look, just a mean look, like, "Ooh, we just don't like. Ooh, you just got caught up." And he like, "Whoa, I'm so happy that y'all here." See, what had happened was a long time ago, the with the looms and the temporals. Yeah, that's what, and they don't want to hear none of that. Just they don't want to hear none of it. None of it. Let me pause and grab some of these comments and see what we got here. Oh, come on, Ty with the super sticker. Come on through. Thank you so much. Always appreciate you, Ty. Thank you for that. Ms. McKeeba, what you got? Let's see. Makes sense. New variant. Who this? Right? Right? So that's potential. That is potential. Let's see, J Mart, what you said here. I think Obi said that he learned everything from Victor Timely. He didn't say that he actually met him. I think you're right. I'd have to go back and watch it, but I think you are correct in saying that. So again, it could be the case that in the guidebook, or actually, I take that back. Obi is the one that wrote the guidebook. He wrote the TVA guidebook. So maybe there's going to be a Victor Timely from a different timeline, maybe a different variant or something that gives Obi his notes, maybe, because how would he know? So I don't know. Again, I feel like there's more time travel that's going to happen, that's going to explain things, because there's a loop going on, but we got to figure out that loop a little bit later. We got to figure it out. But thank you so much for that. All right, what do we get off? Cheaters. Yes, we was on Cheaters. So Sylvie finds herself trapped in the elevator while Loki goes to take the stairs. But this is where we start to find out, and we're starting to catch up with the events of episode 1, back when Loki had to hurry up and prune himself, because he was time slipping. So we just caught up with the old version of Loki that we saw in episode 1. And of course, he is running out of time. But look at that. We got the new Loki who has the prune stick or whatnot, and he was able to prune himself, which does confirm the earlier theories that Loki had to prune himself, or else this Loki would not exist. Once again, we have time loops. This is a constant thing that clearly this episode is trying to drill home. The cause is responsible for the effect, and the effect is responsible for the cause. So this time loop keeps happening. This Loki would not exist if he did not prune himself from the past, if he wasn't time slipping, etc. Victor is responsible for Obi. Obi is responsible for Victor, etc., etc. So here we go again, round and round. Time travel is fun, folks. But now we also go to the telephone, and we find out who finally was the one calling, and it was Obi. All right, Obi was the one calling because Miss Minutes has locked everyone out. and blocked everything. But Obi says that, maybe if he reboots the system, then that would take Miss Minutes offline and give them access back to the TVA. So they was like, but he had one little issue, and he was like, well, if I turn it off, all the magic, the dampeners would turn off. And they was like, man, if you don't hurry up and turn that dang on dampener off so we can get down to business. So he goes ahead, reboots it, and Miss Minutes already starts feeling it. She's feeling that little tingle. She's like, oh, what is this? What's happening? Somebody's rebooting my system. I don't like it. Oh, look at her face. She getting mad. Oh, cannot compute. They done turned her back to analog. Like that, she went back to zeros and ones, just a little digital clock. But here's the funny thing, in case I don't know. While she was glitching, she came up. Did y'all catch this? She came up to talk to Victor. Now, keep in mind, she don't really like Victor, but she loves him, right? So it's a weird relationship that's going on. Right before she glitched, she goes out by saying, Victor, I got something to tell you. You'll never be him. Now, what's odd about this is, yeah, I get it that she was glitching, but it looked like, look at her face. It looked like she had something else to say. Maybe she was going to tell him, I love you. Maybe that is what she tried to say in the last episode. Or maybe she was going to say something else a little bit more enduring. But the fact that she glitched and went into this little angry mode and was like, you'll never be him, as in, you'll never be he who remains. I thought that was kind of interesting that she would say, because of her tone changing and stuff like that. So do y'all think that she wanted to say something else? Do you think that there's a deeper meaning in this? I mean, I think that, of course we know what happens at the end, but there was this assumption that Victor Timely was going to become he who remains, and that was the fear in letting him come back to the TVA. But Miss Minutes was all like, you ain't going to be him no matter what you do. Now, maybe this is also true, but anyway, I just thought it was kind of interesting that she had this quick little turn. Now, we do have X5 or Brad. He after doing that to the hunter, he is walking around and he is caught up by Loki and by Sylvie. She enchants him, which is him taking over his body. And again, this is Sylvie as him in his mind, in his body, taking control. So Sylvie enchants him, and it was really funny because she was like, "Oh, I didn't think we was gonna see each other again." Don't forget, Sylvie and Renslayer got beef. She done gave Renslayer that 300 We Are Sparta kick all the way to the end of time. Okay, because keep in mind, Renslayer is the one that has been causing Sylvie's life to be a living hell. Renslayer is the one that's been chasing Sylvie forever. Renslayer is the one that destroyed Sylvie's timeline. Renslayer is the one that Sylvie was like, when I see you, it's on sight. And she held her promise because Renslayer gone. She gone. Yup, she gone. Wow, 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 wow. I did not see this coming. She zapped her real fast, and that was it. I was like, yo, word? Like, she just gone like that? Now, here's the thing. We already know what happens when something gets pruned. It goes to the void. So we know that Renslayer is not dead, at least not yet. She just got kicked to the void. Now, maybe she's back at the Citadel. Maybe she's back at Kang's castle or whatever. Maybe she's just at the void. I don't know. The one thing we have not talked about is where or what is Alioth doing. Alioth was enchanted last time by Sylvie and Loki. That's what we saw. Is Alioth still enchanted? Is it still kind of like acting like a puppet? Or has it worn off? If it has worn off, is Alioth still running around eating realities? Like, is there anything even left? I don't know. Y'all let me know what you think, but I don't think this is the end of Renslayer at all. We already know, like I said, there is something after this. So there's that, right? At least we know she's gone to the void. Now we get back to the temporal loom, and we know that we needed the temporal aura of He Who Remains to open up the blast doors. So now that Miss Minutes has been reset, she does not have control. And now that they have Victor Timely, who is basically He Who Remains variant, they can open up the blast doors. So now they see the chaos, and that loom is looming. It is getting problematic out there. And Loki volunteers. He says, you know what? I'm the hero of this story. I will go outside those blast doors and I will go ahead and put that multiplier in there and push the green button and save the day. But Loki forgot that he's the main character of this show. And instead of him going out there and doing the sacrifice play, Victor volunteers to go outside instead. And this was pretty heroic I mean, shout out to Victor. This guy was painted to be this villainous guy that's going to take over the world and screw everybody over. We saw him being a con man. We saw him, screwing people over for their money and stuff, and doing all this shady stuff or whatever. But he was willing to put his life on the line for the business. Because y'all know TVA is a black-owned business. So he was willing to put his life on the line to save everything. He was like, look, I'm the only one that knows how this thing works. Let me go out there. I'm going to fix it. He put his money where his mouth is. He put on the suit. He got ready. He was ready to go right now. And this boy turned into Chef Boyardee spaghetti. Yikes. Yikes. Marvel, why y'all do this? Why y'all do this? Why y'all even let me freeze frame it at this? That's his bones. Y'all see his skeleton, his bones, and y'all just let this man, you just gonna rip this man apart like this? And everybody's face, I don't know about y'all, but their face was my face. Everybody's face was my face. I was looking just like this. I was like, what? What? I mean, they did say the radiation was strong, but I'm like this reminded me, y'all know when it be like real hot outside and you just kind of stick your arm outside just to see, and it's that hot. Like, that's how hot it is. Like, you trying to figure out what should I wear. You just stick your arm out just to see how hot is it. That's what that looked like to me. It was real hot out there. And my man got burnt to a crisp. Just burnt. So shout out to them for getting these. This was perfectly shot. Great directing. Great directing. But this is messed up. What do you do? Because this temporal loom, it's over with. Look at this. And all you see all the looms on the left-hand side. That's all the raw time. And you see everything on the right that's supposed to be the sacred timeline being created. And this thing is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this about to explode. And you can see the look. Man, shout out to the acting. I love it when you can act with your face and not even say no words. I love it. And that's it. Victor Timely, he dead. He ain't in no void. He ain't no, he dead. He dead. He's gone. He's spaghetti. He done. Now, the real question is, what happened to everybody else? Where did they go? What is this? Now, I think this is the point where I'll go ahead and give y'all my theory about what just happened here. I think a couple things happened. And let me put this up so y'all can see what's happening. Keep in mind that when they first explained how time exists and how it works here, on the left-hand side, they said that's where all the raw material of time exists. All right. So in other words, whatever makes up time, the ingredients to make up time, it's all out there, which means any and all possibilities are on the left-hand side, your left-hand side of the screen. That undefined stuff is on that side. Now, what does that side mean? The left-hand side that's not nicely tight together into the sacred timeline. All of that stuff, that's the Venom universe, that's Across the Spider-Verse, that's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that's Netflix, that's all that MCU Marvel content stuff just hanging out there, unrefined, unprocessed. And if you noticed, all of that stuff was getting together and bigger to the point where it was about to explode. So once again, I do believe that all of the things that are happening in real life with all the stupid timelines and all the different universes, this is just showing us what's going on with Marvel, but it's putting it in Loki words, right? With that said, because these things are coming together, because these things are exploding, I would not be surprised if hell no, Loki ain't dead. Loki's not gonna die. What? It's his movie. It's his show. And he got 2 more episodes left. He's not dying. I believe they just showed us everybody's gonna be blown into one of two things. The same way when you got hit with the prune stick and you would go to the void, which is like outside of time. This explosion looks like it's something within time. Because if you're getting exploded with raw materials of time, to me, it sounds like we're all going to be pushed into a mess of a universe. In other words, either each character is going to go into different timelines. So, for example, Mobius might go into the Venom verse. Loki might go into the X-Men timeline. B-15 might go into the Netflix universe. Any one of those things are possible. Or we could get a hodgepodge of all of that stuff, just a big old mess, and it's all intertwined. It's all messed up. So what does that mean? That means similar to the incursions where you had two worlds or two universes coming together, you might have an incursion of timelines that are all coming together. Now, this could lead into what we talked about earlier today, where there was a rumor that a potential X-Man from the X-Men movies was going to potentially show up in a cameo in an upcoming Marvel movie. This would explain how that could happen. This could explain why, maybe even why Deadpool and why Hugh Jackman's Logan are able to now coexist. Because if the events in Loki episode 4 have blown everything up and have officially blurred all the timelines into one big mess, that could explain why we can have so many crossovers that normally would not make sense, but now they do. Because the temporal loom, all that raw time, all those raw universes, all those raw possibilities now exist in one. At the same time, no pun intended, because all this time is no longer refined, think back to why they were being refined in the first place. The reason why we even have a sacred timeline is because He Who Remains was trying to prevent his variants from existing. Every time there was a branch timeline, he had the TVA go out there and kill him off because he didn't want another multiversal war to happen. But if you got this explosion of time, this explosion of endless possibilities, this is how you have maybe the beginning of the multiversal war. And what's the next big Avengers movie? Kang Dynasty. This is how it probably all gets kicked off. This is how the multiversal war probably gets kicked off. Because you don't have a He Who Remains there to prune timelines. You don't have anybody taming Eliath, which is what kept all the other variants at bay. Because you have all these variants and apparently Kang is destined to just always exist, you got more Kangs than there could ever be now. So I believe that's what's happening now. I think that we're kicking off the multiversal war. I believe that we are also going to see crazy crossovers in the Marvel universe, which means don't be surprised if you see some crazy, I don't know, X-Men from the Fox days show up in the MCU. Nothing. And here's the one thing I'll say. Nothing needs to make sense. So if we're sitting here trying to analyze why does this happen, all you have to do is blame Loki, the show. Just blame Loki. This explosion is why we about to see some wild stuff. But at the same time, this does give Marvel the opportunity to play around with some things. It gives them the opportunity to play around with, hey, what would it be like if we threw this in there or threw this in there or had this person cameo or this one, whatever. Because literally, it's a blank slate and they can make up whatever they want, especially if Secret Wars is a way to reboot everything anyway. So that's my theory with it right now. That loom was not going to be able to hold everything anyway. So everything is going to, I would say, maybe either it coexists in parallel universes or they're all just going to be one big hodgepodge, just one big thing. So I don't know. That's my theory as to what happened at the end. But y'all let me know, what do you think actually happened at the end of Loki episode 4? Do you think they're all dead? Do you think that maybe everyone goes to different timelines, different universes? Do you think that everyone's going to be in one big crazy universe? Whatever you think, please let me know in the comments down below. There's another theory I do want to throw out there. I do also believe that the TVA has existed outside of time. That's the way we have always known about it, right? Like time works different and they prune the sacred timeline. But we also know that He Who Remains crafted time and he made a temporal loom to create the sacred timeline. So the TVA exists outside of time, and the sacred timeline is what they govern. But one thing that we also noticed was that time was happening in the TVA, and that's not supposed to work. There shouldn't be time in the TVA. That's why the first episode, when they were like time slipping, why are you time slipping? That doesn't make sense. The TVA should deal with the sacred timeline, and that's it. But we're seeing time affect the TVA. This gives me the impression that the TVA is also in its own timeline. What do I mean by that? I'm saying if one sacred timeline could exist, who's to say that another timeline isn't coexisting? Because when you think about, and don't quote me on the physics, but I'm thinking of like relativity. The TVA relative to this sacred timeline is outside the sacred timeline. So, yeah, that would make sense that time would work differently for the TVA if they're on a completely different timeline. But he who remains was outside of all of time. I don't have a third hand. So imagine my head. My head is the third, is where he who remains is. Okay. I'm trying to use some visuals here. My head is he who remains, and he was controlling the sacred timeline, but he also is controlling the timeline for the TVA. And I believe that there is another variant of he who remains that is out there controlling all of this, because he who remains, his whole purpose is to sustain his own existence. But we saw a distraction. Victor Timely was a variant. But again, what happened on the sacred timeline? So I still think that there's another Kang running around ensuring his existence. So again, he who remains, that's me, the bobblehead, he who remains is controlling the timeline, and he's also controlling the TVA. That's why time exists in the TVA, because somebody got to control that. And it's he who remains, the person that created the TVA. So anyway, run with that however you like. But if that theory is true, if my bobblehead theory is true, this proves that Kang is the most dangerous man alive. That is the most dangerous villain the MCU has ever seen. If this man was controlling not one time, but two times, all the time in the world, yikes. Yikes. All right, guys. So this is the point in time where I need help from y'all. What are y'all rating episode 4 on a scale from 1 to 10? While you guys are deliberating that and giving me your rating on a scale from 0 to 10, let's go 0 to 10 for episode 4. Let me give you my thoughts. So, the shockers, the twists, I love it. Did not come off as predictable. I love when you can give me something I cannot see coming. So that right there was good for me. The writing does get a little confusing, but I feel like that's the nature with time travel anyway. But I was engaged. I mean, this really had me on the edge of my seat. Really, really good acting, especially with the final scene. I mean, just all the actors, just really their faces. They were acting with their faces, and I always love that. I feel like this is going to be an episode that we're going to remember, just like we really loved and remembered episode 4 when Loki got pruned in the last season. So was that 4 or was it 6? I forget. Loki had 8 episodes, I want to say. So I think it was 6. I don't know. But whenever Loki got pruned, I know that. I think I'm gonna give this a 9. I think I'm gonna get, and that might be low. I might give it a 9.5, but I think I'm going to give it a 9 for now. Fantastic episode. This is what you want with weekly television, to give us a cliffhanger. I know good and well, just like you and me, we're gonna be right back here looking for episode 5. And y'all know something else I love? I love this too, by the way. And I'm gonna tell on some people right now. We don't have no more screeners, no more YouTubers, nobody know nothing. Nobody. Don't go listen to nobody saying, I know what's gonna happen next week. No, you don't. Nobody has any more advanced notice screenings on episode 5. So We all back on the same level. Everybody not gonna be trying to fool y'all and act like they know stuff just because they seen it ahead of time. No, 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 no. We back on equal level. I love it. I love it because now some of y'all can be wrong and some of y'all can be right. But I love it when it's equal footing. I love that. So cannot wait. Episode 5 is going down. I don't know. Hey, I don't know. I haven't seen it. Maybe episode 5 is trash. Maybe it's gonna be great. Who knows? But that's the fun of this, right? We're gonna find out. And we will be here, of course, next Friday to talk about all of that. So I want to thank y'all so much. Again, let me know your ratings. Let me know your theories for Loki episode 4. Let me know what you're looking forward to seeing in episode 5. All of those things, let me know in the comments down below. All right. Thank you so much for watching. This was just a segment of one of my live chats, and if you're interested in joining in on the next one, be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications for more. I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you all later.